Both the President and Mrs. Roosevelt would talk a lot about what went on. He would say, every time one gives in to Hitler, his ambitions become greater and he wants more. And I think the president felt that in the end, a war was unavoidable.
What really happened to the wives of some of the most powerful figures in Nazi Germany after the war ended? While the world focused on the men and their actions, many people barely looked at the women standing beside them. Did they face consequences, or did they quietly rebuild their lives and move on? The truth is more complicated than most expect. These women were connected to major figures in history, and when everything collapsed, their lives changed overnight in ways that still raise questions today. Let's start with Ilsa Hess. Ilsa Hess lived a life defined by her strong loyalty to the Nazi Party and her marriage to Rudolf Hess, a close associate of Adolf Hitler. She stood firmly beside her husband during the intense and chaotic years of the Third Reich, never stepping away from that world. Ilsa and Rudolf met in the early 1920s, right as political tensions in Germany were rising fast. She joined the Nazi Party in 1921, and after it was temporarily banned, she rejoined in 1925. Their connection grew during this time, even though Rudolf was unsure at first about starting a relationship. Ilsa played a role in introducing Rudolf Hess to Adolf Hitler, who was known for attending social events hosted by influential women. Over time, Hitler became closely involved in their circle and even influenced their marriage. The couple tied the knot on December 20, 1927 in Munich, with Hitler later becoming the godfather to their son, Wolf, who was born in 1937. Throughout the war, Ilsa remained loyal to both her husband and the political system they supported. One of the most shocking moments came when Rudolf Hess flew alone to Scotland in an attempt to open peace discussions with the United Kingdom. The mission failed, but Ilsa continued to defend him and stood by his side publicly. After the war, everything changed fast. Rudolf Hess was sentenced to life imprisonment during the Nuremberg trials, leaving Ilsa to raise their son on her own. She, along with other wives connected to high-ranking officials, was detained and sent to an internment camp in Augsburg. Once released, Ilsa tried to rebuild her life. By 1955, she had moved to Aargau and opened a boarding house, attempting to create a sense of normal life again. But her views and connections remained a topic of attention. She later supported organizations that provided assistance to former SS members who were detained or on trial. In 1952, she published a book titled England, Nuremberg, Spandau, ein Schicksal in Briefen, which gained attention and sparked debate at the time. In her later years, Ilsa focused on advocating for her husband's release from Spandau prison, where he remained until his death in 1987. She passed away on September 7, 1995, leaving behind a story that still raises difficult questions about loyalty, responsibility, and life after war. Next is Margarita Himmler. Margarita Himmler, the wife of Heinrich Himmler, had a very different beginning. She was trained as a nurse during World War I with the goal of helping and saving lives. After the war, she continued working in healthcare and even managed her own private clinic with support from her family. She met Heinrich Himmler in 1927 during one of his lecture tours. He was immediately drawn to her, and the two married in July 1928, despite differences in background, religion, and age. Over time, his family accepted the relationship, and in 1929, they welcomed their daughter, Gudrun. Margarita was not just a bystander. She joined the Nazi Party in 1928 and became involved in organizing gatherings for the wives of high-ranking SS members. Still, she struggled to fit in and was not widely liked within those circles. By the late 1930s, she had taken on a leadership role within the German Red Cross system in Berlin-Brandenburg. This position led her to travel to areas under German control during the war. In her personal diary, she documented visits to places like Posen, Lodz, and Warsaw in 1940, offering a direct look at what she witnessed during that time. She once wrote, "Then I was in Posen, Lodz, and Warsaw. This Jewish rabble, Polacks, most of them don't even look like human beings, and the dirt is indescribable. It's an incredible job trying to create order there." Her words reflect the mindset she held during that period and have been widely discussed by historians. Her involvement helped her gain recognition within the German Red Cross, eventually reaching the rank of colonel. In February 1945, she wrote about her husband saying, "How wonderful that he has been called to great tasks and is equal to them. The whole of Germany is looking to him." In April 1945, Margarita and Heinrich shared what would be their final meeting. Their relationship had already broken down years earlier after she discovered his private relationship with his secretary, which resulted in children. After the war ended, Margarita faced investigations to determine how much she knew about her husband's actions. She denied having detailed knowledge and tried to separate herself from his role. In 1953, after years of review, she was classified as someone who benefited from the system and was sentenced to 30 days of labor. She also lost her voting rights and pension access as part of the ruling. Following her release, she lived under the name Marguerite Boden and kept a low profile until her death in 1967, attempting to distance herself from her past life. And then there's Lena Heydrich, whose story takes things in yet another direction. Her strong admiration for the party led Lena to attend a rally in 1929, where Adolf Hitler gave a speech that left a deep impression on her. That moment pushed her to officially join the Nazi Party and fully step into that world. At just 19 years old, during a rowing club event in Kiel, she met Naval Lieutenant Reinhard Heydrich. Their connection moved fast, and by December 18, 1930, they announced their engagement, but things quickly became complicated. In the following year, Heydrich faced serious professional consequences after being accused of breaking a prior engagement promise to another woman. This situation led to his dismissal from the Navy in April, leaving him without a clear path forward. It was Lena who encouraged him to look into opportunities within the SS. That suggestion changed everything. Heydrich presented ideas for an intelligence service, which impressed Heinrich Himmler so much that he was quickly appointed to lead what would later become the SD. As his influence grew, so did their lifestyle. Adolf Hitler gifted Lena a large estate in rural Bohemia as recognition of her husband's role. The property became their home, where several laborers were kept to maintain the estate during the war years. They remained there until April 1945, when they fled as the Soviet Red Army advanced. Like many others at the time, they were forced to leave everything behind and escape into uncertainty. After the war, Lena went through denazification proceedings and ultimately was cleared. However, her story didn't end there. Through legal battles in 1956 and 1959, she secured a pension from the West German government, a decision that sparked strong reactions due to her husband's historical role. Even though she had been sentenced in absentia by Czechoslovakia, she never served that sentence. Later, in 1965, she traveled to Finland, where she met and married theater director Mauno Manninen, a move that also allowed her to change her surname. Lena later managed her first husband's former summer house on Fehmarn, turning it into a restaurant and inn, but after a fire caused by an accident, that chapter came to an end. In 1976, she released her memoir titled Life with a War Criminal, where she shared her perspective and continued to speak about her past. She remained vocal about defending her first husband's image until her death on August 14, 1985, at the age of 74. Now, let's talk about Emmy Goering. Emmy Goering married Hermann Göring, a leading figure in the Luftwaffe, on April 10, 1935. Even though she didn't actively seek it out, she was granted membership in the Nazi Party as a Christmas gift in 1938, placing her firmly within that inner circle. Before World War II began, Emmy played a visible role at official events, often acting as a hostess during major state functions. She even referred to herself as the First Lady of the Third Reich, which created tension with Eva Braun, who was closely connected to Adolf Hitler. Their relationship was strained, and Emmy's attitude reportedly led to conflicts. At one point, Adolf Hitler instructed Hermann Göring to ensure that Emmy treated Eva with more respect. Because of this tension, Emmy was no longer welcomed at certain private locations, including Hitler's Bavarian retreat. Despite these conflicts, Emmy lived a life of extreme luxury during the war years. The Göring family owned multiple estates and properties across Europe, reflecting their high status at the time. When their daughter Etta was born, Hermann Göring arranged a large aerial tribute over Berlin, marking the occasion in a grand way that drew widespread attention. After the war, Emmy faced consequences through the denazification process. A German court found her responsible for supporting the system, leading to a one-year prison sentence. Once released, she faced additional restrictions. A portion of her wealth, about 30%, was taken, and she was banned from performing on stage for 5 years. Life after that was far more modest. Emmy lived in a small apartment in Munich and later wrote her autobiography, My Life with Göring, where she reflected on her experiences. She passed away on June 8, 1973, at the age of 80, closing the chapter on a life that had once been surrounded by power, influence, and controversy.